so, he was telling me about this, and it just felt like so reasonable and logical to me that I just told him that I was going to call it the joy metric. And from there on, that's how I have decided to live my life. It kind of reinforced the idea of the project, because in Portland, I also met a lot of people who had given me something to think about in a different way than I was seeing it. And along the way in this project, I've met people where they have said things to me that make me feel like I'm looking at things maybe not as logically as I could, and he reinforced that. I'm trying to challenge my belief system, and I'm trying to show other people that it's okay to challenge their belief system.
This might be backtracking a little bit, but what was the impetus for the project? Like, what brought you to think about these ideas?
Yeah, well, it was funny. I started to realize I wasn't listening. I started listening more, and the more I listened, the more I realized that I was surrounding myself with people who were like me and who would, reinforce my worldview. And I felt like that wasn't the best way to grow as a person. So I decided that I should make an effort to meet people who would question my worldview. And that's what I've been doing. That's why I did this project. Is I felt like it was such a valuable experience for me that I felt like if I could show people that while it might be uncomfortable, in the end it's beneficial, and it leads to compassion. You talk to somebody who has a different worldview, but they're still human, and they still have the same. They want love, they want connection, they want some kind of feeling of comfort. They just look at the world differently. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's okay.
Can you think of? I'd be interested in hearing any specific examples of like people who have completely or different worldviews that have like talked to you or like changed kind of your ideas.
There were a couple people in San Francisco. There was a young girl there who had moved out of Santa Cruz when she was 18 to San Francisco with her boyfriend. And they broke up when she was in San Francisco, but she was living in a room with another person and paying $500 a month to live there just so she could live in San. And it was one of those things where when I was talking to her, it reminded me of so many things I had forgotten about being young, that up until then I had been feeling like, wow, if you want to live in San Francisco, you have to give up something you really want. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you're giving up something you really want for something you might really need. And she was a great example of somebody who was navigating her way through a city in order to grow as a person, and putting herself in situations that might not be comfortable, but putting herself in situations where she would be forced to grow. And it really kind of took me aback. I would say the other person who made me think was in Portland, he was a guy who had been in an awful plane crash when he was younger, and it took like 33 surgeries in 7 years to get him to be working well again. And he firmly believes that accident was the best thing that ever happened. Look at somebody like that. He's thankful for the life he's had, and his life has not been easy.
Yeah.
And you think, we human beings, we have greatness in us, and he displayed greatness.
So what made you decide, what city, how did you decide about your trajectory of the cities that you visit? Was that? The
cities, basically, I picked them because they either have a bunch of people moving into them or people moving out. Mm-hmm. So it's a population migration. Detroit, Las Vegas, these are all cities that have experienced great decline or great growth. And I feel like you can't help but be affected by that.
How do you find the people that you talk to? Because it's hard to find, I'm sure, people from all different areas, and
right.
every experience is a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm doing a lot of couch surfer stuff.
Okay.
And couch surfer people generally, because they're willing to take you into their homes and have you live there. They're also gregarious and they're outgoing and they want to connect with people.
Okay.
But I also am using a lot of my friends who know people, and then I connect with those. Couch surfer has helped a lot because I'm meeting people who I never would have met. Yeah.
So what would be your hope? What's your hope for the project? What would be your ideal thing that it would bring about?
I guess I really want to inspire people to open themselves up to other people. I feel like I feel like there's part of us, all of us, even, obviously me, we're so afraid of what we don't know, and we assume the worst a lot of the time. And I want to set an example for the possibility and the opportunity that you get when you open yourself up to new experiences with other people. Even people who don't see the world the way you see it, your world becomes huge when you meet people that you wouldn't have otherwise met, but it also gets smaller, and you realize how much you have in common with people that you feel.
It's a connection.
Yeah, there's a connection, and I just feel like the best thing I can do is help people learn how to be more open to each other. Because, right now we're withdrawing. We're communicating with each other through text messaging, through Facebook, through YouTube, through emails, and so much emotion and humanness is lost in that.
Yeah, I think feel like that's the strength, is this idea of that you're willing to listen to one person's story, and a lot of times they don't tell that story. They don't get to tell that story to us.
People in general, and the more that you see people's frailties, the more you feel comfortable with your own, because I feel like there's a premium put on perfection, and that's so, it's not really realistic. So the more that I feel like we share our imperfections, and the more we share our failures, and the more we share our successes, I feel like the more we'll be comfortable, with our being who we are.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
So do you see this leading, or do you see it leading to something else?
I hope that after a year, I can keep going to new cities and meeting more people.
Oh, yeah,
my goal is to, because really almost every time I meet with someone I don't know, I am amazed at how much I assume incorrectly, and how much I surprise myself with how I put people in boxes, and I don't expect how great people can be. So, yeah, that's my goal, is to show people how great everybody in the world can be if you just allow them to be who they are.
To speak, or
Yeah.
Is there anything more you want to say about the project?
No, I'm just really passionate about this project. I've really learned a lot, and I feel like it can help